What was the furthest away land the ancient Egyptians would have known about? Would they have known about Persia before being conquered? India, China, Europe, other than Greece. Okay. Greece, they knew very early. We do actually have evidence that there was trade going on between Greece and Egypt as early as Dynasty 11. While it doesn't appear, the names for Greece, like Keftiu, do not appear in Egyptian texts until the New Kingdom, we have trade goods from the Greek archipelago that, as I say, dates to the 11th dynasty. So they knew Greece very early. Europe, yes. And particularly, we have evidence that they knew about Etruscans in Italy, because there are Etruscan craftsmen that worked on some of the objects of King Tut. Like, for example, there's a metal technique that's very, very particular to the Etruscans, which is granulation. Yeah, we saw the dagger, yes. King Tut has a very, very famous dagger that has granulation on the handle. Now, granulation is a really difficult metal technique to master. Really difficult. So, that granulation was only mastered by Etruscan craftsmen. We also have evidence that so they had some ties to Italy. So by the 18th dynasty, there was some ties to Italy. There's also some connection with Tarshish, which is actually Spain. On, say, the west coast, this is the coast that's actually on the Atlantic side, there were some Egyptian scarabs, New Kingdom scarabs, discovered there. So they do seem to have been aware of at least trade connections going all the way to Spain on that side. Okay? Now, with that said, okay, so that's sort of the northwestern extreme of what they would have had contact with, is Greece, Italy, and Spain. On, say, the south, the farthest they would have gotten is Punt. And that's in Sudan. Okay? That's in Sudan. So that's as far as they got southward, is Sudan. To the east, this is where things sort of get fuzzy. Okay? Were they aware of Mesopotamia? Absolutely. Absolutely, they were totally aware. They actually had diplomatic relations with Babylon and Assyria. So the Egyptians had diplomatic relations with both. They had diplomatic relations with Turkey. So the kings of the Amarna period were sending letters to Mesopotamia, to the kings of Mesopotamia. Kadesh and Enlil II was one of the kings that Akhenaten had diplomatic relationships with.
Interesting. Is there a late Egyptian?
We don't know if there's a late Egyptian word for India. Now, we do know there were trade routes that went to India. How do we know this? Cloves have been found in the tomb of King Tut. So given that there's cloves found in the tomb of King Tut, they must have had some trade relationship with India. We also find silk that dates to the reign of Ramses III. So a couple dynasties later, Dynasty 20, we find silk. So for that, they would have gone to China. Now, were the Egyptians aware that their traders had gone to India or China? We don't know. But there is a trade route, at least, that connects Egypt to China. That's one of the things we were actually coming to understand now that we didn't understand before, let's say 50 years ago, is how extensive these trade routes have become. They're incredibly vast, incredibly extensive. And it could be that they're trading with one set of traders who trades with another set of traders who trades with another set of traders, and there might not be this, set number one might not be aware of where set number three is coming from, but they're meeting in the middle and they're trading their goods. Entirely possible. So, we don't know exactly how far the Egyptian concept of the world expanded. But we do know that they were aware that it was bigger out there. They were not that insular. They were not so insular that they didn't know that there was a big, vast world out there. They may not have appreciated how vast, but they knew it was big. And they did, as I say, have regular diplomatic relations with all the way to, as I say, to Mesopotamia, north into Turkey, and even south into Punt, into Sudan. So those were regular trips that the king would have been aware of. As I said, the one to Punt easily was, Queen Hatshepsut made a huge deal of that one. She decorated her temple at Deir el-Bakhri with reliefs of scenery from Punt. So these kings were aware of all these other kingdoms out there.
Her way of showing her travel pictures?
Yeah, she didn't go herself, but there were a lot of people out there who, yeah. So there was a lot of trading going on, and as I said, exchange of diplomatic courtesies. As I said, at least as far east as Babylon.